Most people that run red lights full speed don't even know they're running a red light. It's accidental.
Right.
So having a camera there isn't going to change anything.
There's actually the argument made that, yeah, if you get hit at 20, you might just live your life as a vegetable instead of being dead. And, you know, there's arguments for whether or not that's better or worse.
If you're interested in safety, that's one thing. But decreasing the length of yellow light, that is a safety feature.
A lot of the things that cities do in the name of safety just seems ass backwards or back asswards.
You know, I'm all about like coming up with ideas to improve traffic safety, but I don't like bullshit. Welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and we would really love it if you'd like and share this video and subscribe to the channel. It'll help us out a lot.
And I'm Casey Rochford, and if you dig our awesome tunes, you can get them at patreon.com/KSMvidcast. They're at the end of every episode, so stick around. We got a good one today. I recently ended up getting one of those, Skynet Android telephone, or not telephone, but like camera ticket things, where there's like a little tiny cop sitting in the camera or whatever and writing tickets,
Red light camera. Oh man.
Yeah, it was like a speed one. But you're starting to see those crop up more and more now too. But yeah, basically the same concept. It's like instead of having cops just kind of like see things as they're out and about on their beat, we're just nailing everybody and sending them things in the mail and basically relying on the fact that they're going to not want to take time off of work and go fight this in the court. And what do you think?
That's like robot cops. Do we have OCP now all of a sudden?
It's super like police state authoritarian kind of slippery slope stuff,
Yeah, and what bugs me about it is there's no room for nuance, for looking at the circumstance and determining, which a human could do. It's just like a machine sees some numbers and issues a citation, and that's it. And I do kind of have a problem with that.
I can see I can see the appeal, for certain things. Red light accidents do indeed cause harm and death. That's actually a thing. Speeding, that's heavily nuanced. Like speeding at what point, like at what magnitude does it become a danger? That's so dependent on weather and your attention span and all kinds of things. So
yeah, so here's the thing. The speed thing, I think that it's too heavily emphasized in law enforcement or traffic enforcement. I don't think that going fast necessarily or going over the speed limit necessarily adds to the danger. Especially because speed limits are kind of arbitrary. You have places like long, straight stretches of road that are 25 miles an hour, and you have windy, twisty ones that are 45.
Yeah.
with all kinds of side roads and stuff. It's just made up. And so and if you look at it, I can't say that going faster to an extent necessarily makes things more dangerous. So the idea that you have cameras that enforce speed limits based on
it's all a numbers game. I've taken physics and I've done the math for myself. You definitely do see a massive increase in stopping time the faster you're going. But take something like school zones into account, where they just arbitrarily pick 20 miles per hour. I've also done the math. If a kid darts out between the bumpers of two cars and it's like 5 feet in front of you, that kid's dead anyway. There's no speed you can pick that's going to eliminate all accidents. It's
except for maybe like 1 mile an hour. But that's a good point, that if you're going 30 or 20, if you get hit at either speed as a kid, you're probably dead or severely injured.
Well, there's actually the argument made that, if you get hit at 20, you might just live your life as a vegetable instead of being dead. And, there's arguments for whether or not that's better or worse. So
it's a good point. Yeah. and then it kind of, the issue I see there is people think that they're safe at that point. Kids will just run into the street.
Oh yeah. We are
that kind of thing.
Heavily influencing natural selection here.
Because when I was a kid, we didn't have school zones. You had to pay attention to the world around you. Look both ways,
yards or something, but it wasn't like you had to slow down. And
you look both ways before crossing the street, and you assume that every car is coming at you, and
that they're capable of killing you, and that's all you need to know as a kid. Even kids ought to be able to understand that, and if they don't, like I said earlier, natural selection.
Well, that's a rather grim outlook, but I guess it's scientifically valid in that regard. But how about red light cameras? Because I know you talked about that. The issue I see with those is that, there's actually kind of a lot of issues. But one of them is this idea that putting cameras at intersections to enforce the traffic laws will somehow improve safety. And I'm not completely up on the numbers, but I am pretty confident that most people that run red lights full speed don't even know they're running a red light. It's accidental.
Right.
So having a camera there isn't going to change anything. You're basically enforcing, it's retroactive. And so
it's exactly like, you remember back in Tacoma years ago, like 20 years ago or something, some lady was getting groceries out of her car and some guy fell asleep at the wheel and hit her and killed her. And then they put these little flags on the corner for people to cross the street in case somebody falls asleep at the wheel. These flags are supposed to wake them up? So it's like the same thing with the red light camera. It's like taking someone's picture isn't going to save the life of the person that just got creamed by the guy who wasn't paying attention in the first place.
Exactly. And there is evidence to suggest that putting these cameras in place at intersections actually increases accidents, like rear end collisions, because people are like, holy shit, it's turning yellow. I got to slam on the brakes. They slam on the brakes. The car behind them thinks they're going to go through the yellow, and bam, there's an accident. So,
and some of the cameras will take the picture anyway, because they're triggered by like drastic changes in speed, or like if you just stop just a little bit over the line or something.
And there's another aspect. Some areas have different cities and things like that have actually decreased the duration of the yellow light with the intention of getting more revenue from tickets, which I think is it's like, well, okay, if you're interested in safety, that's one thing, but decreasing the length of yellow light, that is a safety feature. That's there to indicate, hey, the light is going to turn red. You should decide what you're going to do, either slow down and stop or continue through. But to decrease that, that just shows it is a revenue generating machine. They have no interest in safety. It's all about making money.
Oh yeah.
And to hell with the people's safety at that point.
So it's like, I don't know if these numbers are cooked or not, but they have seen reductions in red light accidents or whatever, you know, not the rear end. That definitely has gone way up. That's a fact. Yeah. But like the fatalities or whatever, that's apparently gone down, which I could see an argument for that. But I've also seen firsthand how they warp traffic statistics to make themselves look good and just with some bullshit, you know, like case in point, for a small digression here, I-405 added that toll express lane, so you have to pay $10 to ride in the express lane now instead of just being a carpool. And they were like, it's really dramatically helped traffic, while it actually increased the commute by like 60% or something. It made things so much slower because nobody wants to be in that lane, except for there's like a lot of BMWs in there and stuff like that. People can't afford it, just are like, whatever, I'll take that. But sometimes it's $10 to be in there and it's like dead stopped and the rest of traffic is going. It's really funny. So anyway, but back to the back to the red light camera thing. It's a total cash grab. The other safety feature that I see going away sometimes is the 2-second delay where all the lights are red. You know, like, so that's the other thing. If your tail is still in the intersection just as it turns red and it takes your picture while the other freaking direction is still red anyway, that's bullshit too. Like that's not protecting anyone's safety. That's a cash grab.
No, and my understanding is, if you are in the intersection, your vehicle has entered the intersection when the light turns red, you're good legally in most jurisdictions. So you exit the intersection, then it changes, and you know that kind
should be the case. But
yeah, and I've seen some where as soon as one direction turns red, the perpendicular direction immediately turns green. Mm-hmm. And I see that as a huge hazard.
It is.
That is very dangerous.
But even still, even if you have no delay, it's like this one turns red, this one turns green, exact same time. Physics, just a simple physics equation will tell you that even if your tail is still in the intersection, there's no possible way, unless somebody's got a McLaren F1 and they fucking floor it, there's not going to be an accident. And why would they do that? Because they can see you're still in the intersection anyway. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Because you're moving at full speed, whatever the speed is on that road, and the other side is stopped. So you're traveling with whatever momentum you have, and the other side has to accelerate. So there's no way you could possibly intersect unless, I don't know, somebody's looking at the light from the side as they're approaching and they just gun it.
Yeah.
Right, as it turns green or something like that. But why would you do that?
Right.
Yeah.
I have so many problems with a lot of the things that cities do in the name of safety. It just seems ass backwards or back asswards, you know,
mm-hmm. Yeah. And what about
all that stuff, and like roundabouts and
roundabouts. Yeah, that I got mixed feelings about that. Although I do like the what is it, diverging diamond intersection or something like that.
What?
There's a French invention that's There's a few in the US. Like, I think it's actually kind of an interesting idea. You know, I'm all about like coming up with ideas to improve traffic safety, but I don't like bullshit, and I don't like stuff that has no goal but to extract money from people for their driving behavior.
Yeah.
That bothers me. And red light cameras are definitely one of those kinds of things.
And then let's talk about the huge expenditure that goes into putting these things in and maintaining them, and manning the reviewing all the footage and stuff like that. And it I think it's like $50,000 per camera or something.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's a ridiculous amount. So it's like, if you get one person pissed off enough, it's like kind of a sharpshooter that comes back after getting his picture taken and just pop, 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 blows out the camera. Boom, your $65 ticket has now cost you $50,000.
I seem to recall in our local area, the Pacific Northwest, there's a particular, this is a speed camera in Puyallup, or at the near Puyallup. So there was a camera, and it tracked your movement around a corner and stuff. And if you exceed the speed limit, bam, you got a picture taken and you got a ticket. Somebody, I don't know who, but somebody was rather infuriated by their ticket, presumably, and they shot it twice and destroyed it. And it was out of commission for a good couple of weeks. And then I saw a technician up there on a ladder, like replacing the camera and stuff. But yeah, that's a good point.
Someone, huh?
Someone. No names will ever be named. No one will ever know. And here's the thing. I think with the technology that we have now, we should probably talk about self-driving cars at some point, because I have my feelings about that.
Mm-hmm.
But how about this? Utilize that kind of system. If you're interested in stopping an accident, use the pre-existing self-driving technology that I mean, at this point should be pretty simple, and have it force stop people at a red light. If you're approaching an intersection and the light's red, it just stops you.
Well, yeah, if that were equipped in every car, it could be like a chain reaction thing, so that there wouldn't be any like rear ending. Yeah,
exactly.
Perform that super quick equation to figure out how many cars do I need to trigger at what point, and like, I don't know. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I've never thought of that.
And it might present a few complications when you're intermingling self-driving cars with human-driven cars.
Well, yeah.
But for the very few people that run a red light and cause an accident, that might help.
Yeah. Or, like, if all this surveillance stuff is getting so sophisticated, wouldn't it make more sense to just have the school zone cameras and stuff like that actually only be operational if they detect the presence of a child within their view? Why not just let traffic flow as it does, and then if kids show up, then it's active?
Here's the thing. So talking about school zone cameras, I can't count the number of times I've gone through a school zone and you got the yellow lights flashing, saying 20 miles an hour, and there is nary a kid to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
No one. It's a wasteland. Yep. But then, you go like a couple blocks away and there's kids walking all over, and it's not a school zone. So you could happily go 30, 40, 50 miles an hour with kids walking around.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. My thought on this is, fuck the school zones. Teach the kids how to deal with cars. It's very simple.
Yeah, that would be pretty wise.
Yeah, because when you walk away from the school zone, you're no longer, quote unquote, protected by it. So now you have to use your wits. You have to deal with the real world. And I think, well, we wouldn't even need school zones if kids had 10 seconds of education about how to deal with cars. Look both ways. Don't run in front of cars.
Yeah.
That's simple, you know?
Like we did back in the day, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And here's the thing that gets me too, is like, why are there school zones for middle schools? If you're 11 years old and you don't know to look both ways, seriously, I'm going to say it again, natural selection.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before about ages and things like that. Like, I think by the time you're in middle school, you should probably be competent enough to be able to navigate around the world and deal with stuff in the real world, like traffic and cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think the fact that we aren't there, the fact that we're coddling people and making things even worse as far as culpability and like just general street smarts.
Yeah.
You know, that's like speaking volumes, like we are doing something wrong with education, like not even just in schools, like in the home. Like, are you really not teaching your kids that cars are dangerous? Or are you just like, well, school zones exist, so I think my kid's safe? Really?
Yeah. It's a good point. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people are actually that lazy. I mean, maybe some are, but you know, like it's feeling like that's what's going on.
Well, maybe they are, especially when you have the crutch of technological solutions and you think that it's kind of the magic bullet to solve everything. You just put up a camera and some flashing lights and bam, you're done. And then kids can walk around texting or Instagramming or whatever they do these days, ignoring, completely oblivious to the world around them, and everything's going to be fine. Well, it's not going to be. Do you know how many times, and this is not just kids, it's adults as well, how many times I have had to slam on the brakes because some idiot is walking across the street with their phone in their hand, not paying attention. They assume, oh, I'm at a crosswalk, I'm just going to be totally safe. No, you have to assume, this is the thing, this goes back to a lot of different things, but it's kind of like gun safety. One of the very first rule of gun safety is every gun is loaded.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. So to me, I look at it and I think every car is going to hit me. So I have to be the one that's proactive and avoid it. I look at cars as projectiles headed in my direction, and I have to avoid them. But people think, oh, they're going to stop. What if they don't? You're dead.
Yeah.
So is a Facebook post worth dying over? No, it's totally not.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff happens so quick. Like, I'll be backing out of a space, I'll check right, I'll check left, I'll check right again, and I'll start backing out. And as soon as like my field of vision gets past the car next to me, there's already somebody like speeding past me and like honking, and like it's like, you could see that I was backing out, and you still screaming past me and got pissed off at me because I couldn't see you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we could talk about impatience too. That's another thing. Mm-hmm. People are all in a big fat hurry to get to somewhere, and of course, I see this all the time. Like, people are in a hurry all the time, and then they get home and they sit down and watch Netflix or something. It's like, that's what you were rushing home to do. So it's not worth it. Just take a second, be aware of your surroundings, and preserve your own life.
And I think the other angle here is that this is all knee-jerk reaction shit. Like, people are like, we have to do something. Somebody got hit by a car, we have to make sure this never happens again. And it's like, ooh, there's no way of doing that.
I actually have a plan to do minute microscopy about the whole do something philosophy.
Yeah.
But that's a good point, because it goes back to that whole that accident where the lady was getting out of the car and got hit by the sleeping driver and stuff, and all of a sudden there was this outcry. It was in the papers and the flag and all this stuff. I was driving down that road, and somebody that lived there threw some stuff on my car, and I stopped, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? And he was like, didn't you know that a lady got hit? And I was like, yeah, I know somebody that knew that lady. It was a sleeping driver, and he was getting on my case. He didn't even know that, like, my Tech 9 was sitting on the seat of the car. But still, it was relatively civil, and in the end, we ended up shaking hands and stuff like that. But that is a point. Like, people overreact to these things. Like, sometimes shit happens, and it's that whole, like, it's kind of like driving on ice. You try to correct, and then you correct, and pretty soon you're spinning out. And maybe if you just chilled out and let things go, it wouldn't be that bad.
I mean, like, the thing to remember when you start losing control of your car is let go. Like, get off the gas, like, relax a little bit, like, you have to, like, kind of go with the flow to a certain extent. You got to be engaged and paying attention and stuff, but you can't just be like, like, that serves nobody. And like, it just makes things worse, and it's going to make things hurt more when you hit something.
And that's the whole thing. Like, if you try to do the same sort of thing legislatively, you may end up making things worse. And or at least just finding people for no reason.
Yeah. And swinging back to the red light camera thing, even if we're seeing less deaths in red light incidences, the increase in overall accidents, like rear end accidents and stuff, I see this as worse. I see more accidents as a problem. Like, you're contributing to congested streets now, because that's going to back everything up. And like, everyone's quality of life gets impacted by all of this happening. Like, the actual amount of people getting killed when somebody runs a red light or whatever. I mean, whether or not we reduce that, it wasn't that big of a number in the first place, but now you're just increasing the overall amount of accidents, period. That's what I'm trying to say, is like, you're making more accidents to save, potentially, maybe, allegedly save some lives.
Well, yeah, exactly, because I think it's pretty easy to lie with statistics. So I don't know that the numbers that are presented are valid in that regard.
Because there's going to be flux. It's like, you can't definitively point to your camera and say this has saved all of these lives, because you're basing this on averages, and like, averages between when and when, and did you factor in the weather? Did you factor in which we're paying attention and which we're just trying to get somewhere quickly? You can't say
it's a whole correlation versus causation kind of thing. Like, the thing is, there are other factors at work that may not be being taken into account, that could have influenced these things too. So just because there were more accidents before the camera went in, and there were less death dealing accidents before, and then less after, doesn't mean the camera was the responsible for that. It could be something else. We don't know. So I'm very skeptical of those kinds of statistics, especially the way those cameras are implemented and things like that. I mean, there's just a couple companies in the country, in the US, that make those. There's one in Arizona, and they kind of perpetuate that sort of myth that it's going to save lives and all this stuff. And I think that they perpetuate, okay, here's my conspiracy theory. They perpetuate the idea to the public that red light cameras save lives, but to the politicians, they perpetuate the idea that, hey, this is going to make you a shitload of money.
Yep.
And they do make a lot of money from it.
Mm-hmm.
And
unless more people decided that they were going to shoot these cameras.
Yeah. There's an epic video of a speed camera. I think it was somewhere in a Scandinavian country or something like that, being blown up by explosives. And I was like, yes! I just, to the viewers, I have a very strong disdain for these kinds of things. I don't think they make things safer. I don't think they make things better. I think it's a cash grab. And technological solutions, yes, can make things better, but they shouldn't be relied upon as like a magic solution to things, because they're not. They're a tool, like any technological solution. Maybe you can use them, but here in the US, it's kind of like, oh, we'll install a camera, problem solved.
Yeah,
but it's not.
Yeah, these types of technology perpetuate the myth that law is absolute. It's black and white. If you go 26 miles per hour in a 25-mile-per-hour zone, you are a criminal. You have broken the law, and there is absolutely no justification for that whatsoever. It takes into account nothing about judgment calls or, circumstances, weather, anything like that. And it goes to the whole law and morality and ethics being intertwined when they're really all separate entities.
Yeah, exactly. And if we allow robots, machines to judge us, well, we're in Terminator 2.
Yep.
I guess at that point.
Yeah. It's I don't like the trend of this automated law enforcement. I don't think it's right. We
no,
have
because here's the thing. We're talking about human beings. So law enforcement has everything to do with people, humans.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking about humans, it's not black and white, it's shades of gray. And only humans can really understand that. And if you have an automated system analyzing it, it doesn't comprehend the nuances.
Mm-hmm.
But a person does. And to replace that person with a machine is to kind of condense all of that down into shades of black, or black and white. And I don't know that it's superior.
We have enough trouble with our human being law enforcement making good judgment calls. How are we going to trust a camera to do it for us?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why don't we fix the human element before we start relying on machines to do our work for us?
Yeah, that's a good point. And in fact, we all know that machines are subject to error.
Mm-hmm.
And their programming is done by humans. So in terms of law enforcement, if we have a fallible group of law enforcement individuals creating this algorithm, well, how fallible is the product going to be? Is it going to be perfect? I doubt it. I don't see how it could be anything less than imperfect at that point.
More than once, I've been sitting, like, at like 2 a.m, and there's hardly any cars on the road. I'm sitting at a red light, and I'll just see it flash. Like, nobody around, nobody's moving. It's like there's like a tumbleweed or something going through the intersection and sets it off. It's like if it makes a mistake, then how do you know it's not making a mistake? I mean, sure, nobody's getting a ticket from that, but the point is, like, they're fullable.
Yeah. Red Dwarf reference there. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Man, this is a good subject. Like, I'm sure there's all kinds of different things we could talk about here. Actually, I have quite a few different things I want to bring up, but we should probably keep it kind of concise.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of little nooks and crannies to crawl into with this one, but I'd like to hear what viewers think. Do you think it's a good idea to have cameras dictating the law, or you think it's better to just try to use a little common sense on the road?
Yeah, and I would propose the idea that
I'm sorry, that was kind of a loaded question. I gotta check myself on my logical fallacies here. That was a loaded question.
So where was I? I would propose that introducing these kinds of systems gives us a false sense of security, that we think computers are so awesome and machines can do no wrong, and so therefore it makes everything better. And in doing so, we remove the incentive for our own selves to be wary and cautious and basically be having to learn how to deal with the world. It's the whole thing with the crosswalking texting person, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You have a school zone and kids think it's perfectly safe. You can just walk wherever you want to go. Well, no, you can't. You shouldn't. And so I feel like, though these things, even if they have right now a beneficial effect in terms of keeping people from dying, which I think is a good thing, in the long term, are they going to make us dumb and completely ignorant and just treat things like it's casual, like, oh, I could just walk into the street because everything's good?
Yeah. So if I want to rephrase my question to the viewers, do you think it's better to put the emphasis on personal liability, or to just let it be, a picture taken and a ticket is written and you feel that is good enough for your safety?
Good. Yeah. I think we've covered enough for now.
That was a pretty good, concise, lots of information there in 30 or 40 minutes. So
yeah, we'll probably come back to this again, because this is a pretty big topic, actually.
Yep.
Doesn't seem like it, but it is. Yeah, so I'd like to hear what everybody has to say about red light cameras or speed cameras, or using technology to solve human error problems. Is it a benefit? Is it bad? Is it like, does it remove the incentive to take your own personal responsibility and be aware of your surroundings and that kind of thing? Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, thanks for deep sink diving with us into the topic of red light cameras.
Stop. Altair time.
Interrupted thoughts and corrupted plots. Milestones of time captured in rhyme. A picture worth 1,000 words. Never watching through an open window. I want to know. Snap and click and hum. I know that sound. Shutter traps the light. Freezing time. I'm swimming in your visual memoirs. Doing this should be no crime.